start with the first round pick, and we're going to take ourselves back to the moment that it happened. You were in your house. I was in the Niners media facility, and we were both not expecting this.
Okay, why don't you set the scene in the press room, and why don't you describe what the press room was like with no windows and the whole thing?
Okay, yeah. So it's sort of underground. Floor level, ground level is the second floor at Levi's. We're on the first floor, which is underground, and it's on the same level as the field. And it's a big rectangle. There are no windows. There are 4 rows of cubicles, and there are televisions. And it's a very neon-y type of room. So we're all working. We're all in our little cubicle, and the Niners are on the clock. No one really knows who they're going to take. Someone in the media room says that they're going to take Cooper DeJean, the DB from Iowa. And there's a little chatter around the room like, oh, okay, that's a good move. That's a pretty good pick. I was going to give it an A+. I was so surprised. And then a couple minutes later, maybe 3 minutes later, we're here. Actually, no, Ricky Pearsall. And then the room gets very quiet. Not like laughing or oh, that was really good. Just very, very quiet, trying to figure out what happened and maybe who this guy is.
So it went from high anticipation to like, what the heck?
Yes.
Being dumbfounded. Okay. Here's my story. I was in I sleep in sweat clothes. I was in my sweat clothes. I didn't do anything all day. And I was lying in bed reading. I'm reading a series called The Dublin Murder Squad, and I like it a lot. And the draft, I don't know. It's interesting, the picks, but the whole program is really boring. There's a pick, and then they celebrate, and then you talk to the mother, you talk to the father. He's a high character guy. He overcame adversity. And I don't want to know that. I just want to know the pick. So when I see that the pick is coming, I turn the sound on. But I know I got 10 minutes after that. And plus, the Niners weren't going to 31, and they didn't trade up, as opposed to what certain people said. So I basically was reading all day, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I'd watch for 10 seconds here, but then it's getting closer to 31. So I turned the sound on, and I'm expecting something really exciting, okay? And I actually said to myself, the one thing I know is they're not going to draft a wide receiver with the first pick because they're loaded. And when they said Ricky Pearsall, wide receiver, I actually looked at the TV like, maybe there was a mistake. Maybe I heard it wrong. And then they said he was a wide receiver. I almost fell out of the bed because it from my point of view, it was the stupidest possible pick. And I'm using that word stupid, and I mean it. I don't mean that John Lynch and Kyle are stupid. The pick was stupid. Why was the pick stupid? Because they didn't need a wide receiver at that point. There were so many other pressing needs. Offensive tackle.
Yeah.
Linebacker.
Yeah. Defensive lineman. I mean, anything.
Defensive line. Anything.
Cornerback, safety.
Anything. And here they go where they got a lot of good guys, and they didn't trade away Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk. So I just felt it was extra. It's a kind of pick you take in the 4th round. And it made me think, oh my God, who is running? I even wrote, is a 5-year-old running this draft? That's what I thought, Iggy. And what's more, I thought it set the tone for the whole draft.
Well, you said it's the kind of pick you make in the 4th round. What's incredible about it is they drafted a wide receiver in the 4th round. The question is, why do they have to take one in round 1 as well when it's not a need? It's just not. In fact, it's one of the strongest positions on the team. People could say, well, next year they might need one. Then get a damn wide receiver next year.
Right.
What the draft is for next year. Oh, but you had to get one because Kyle Shanahan's system is so complicated. It takes so long to teach it. Well, simplify your damn system. You scored 9 points in regulation in the Super Bowl. How good is it?
Yeah, now Eric Branch in the Chronicle had a very good article. He showed, I thought, intelligently and systematically that the draft that largely was not for this season, but for the 2025 season. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Your players, your core players are getting old, just like the Warriors. They're a year or two behind the Warriors, right?
Yes.
Your core players are getting old. You need to do stuff. Look, the left tackle, he's getting old. You need to be developing a tackle. You don't need another wide receiver. It was stupid. I would have to say stupid. And Iggy, you have another point which is more important. Please bring that up.
Well, to me, it's a Kyle Shanahan pick, and it represents Shanahan not understanding why they lost the Super Bowl. Like it sort of indicates that he thinks they lost because their wide receivers couldn't get open. When that's part of the reason they lost, but it's not the main reason they lost the Super Bowl. They lost the Super Bowl because they lost in the trenches. They got bullied by the Chiefs. The Niners couldn't run the ball. They're a run-first team with Christian McCaffrey. He looked ordinary, averaged 3.5 yards a carry and fumbled. He wasn't effective, and they couldn't protect Brock Purdy. He was under instant pressure a lot from people who weren't even blocked. That's why they lost. The Chiefs were tougher than them. The Niners weren't tough enough. And that's why they lost the Super Bowl. And the fact that they added another wide receiver, he doesn't make them tougher. They're a finesse team. Every time they lost last year, they faced a team that was tougher than them, and they got beat up. The Browns, the Bengals, the Ravens, the Chiefs, AFC teams that are flat out tougher than the 49ers. The Niners thought they were great. They were the best team in the NFC, a really weak conference that's getting better now. But they lost to the Browns' third-string quarterback. Browns just beat them up. Bengals came to the 49 to Santa Clara and made the Niners look terrible on their home field, and so did the Ravens. So they misjudged their own team. They have an issue of toughness, not route running.
Right, and they are a finesse team, and that'll only get you so far. It'll get you to do well in the NFC, although maybe not the upcoming season. But it shows that Kyle did not learn from the Super Bowl. And I want to say something, Iggy. I don't think he learns from, I'm going to call it failure. Failed in the Super Bowl. They lost. So it's a strong word, but I don't have a better one right now. He doesn't learn from failure. Failure can teach you things. The first pick showed he didn't learn anything. And, I have to say, the more I'm exposed to him and his coaching and his thinking, the less I think of him, Iggy. I'm not particularly impressed by him as a coach. And that first pick influenced everything they did. I was lying in bed in my sweats. I'm thinking, what they don't need is they don't need a wide receiver, and they don't need a running back. They got 3 really good running backs. And then they picked the running back. And they didn't pick ever a tackle. Even when they went on the offensive line, Iggy, they picked guards. And here's the thing about it. They picked a lot of players that won't even play this season. What the hell? What the hell kind of draft is that?
Also, they got a 4th string wide receiver. It's like what the Niners did when they drafted AJ Jenkins. I think he'll be better than AJ Jenkins. But they drafted AJ Jenkins, and they acknowledged he's not really going to play this year. He's going to sit on the bench. We got Randy Moss, Michael Crabtree, Mario Manningham. Is that how you really want to introduce your first-round pick to your team, by just sitting him? Like the Chiefs, who are better than the 49ers, they drafted a wide receiver in round 1 as well. They traded up for the guy, and he looks like the next Deshaun Jackson. He's going to start for them. He's going to be really good. The Niners got and they needed him. They absolutely needed a wide receiver. They filled a need, and they traded up to get a guy they love. The Niners just waited and got a guy that no other team would have drafted in round 1. No other team would have done it.
Iggy, had you ever heard of that Pearsall?
Yeah, I'd heard of him. Everyone had heard of him. He was supposed to get drafted in round 2 or round 3. And there's a quarterback for the Texans, CJ Stroud, was doing like a live stream with Micah Parsons during the draft. And when the Niners took Pearsall, he like fell out of his chair and said how much he liked Pearsall and that he was hoping that the Texans would get him. But he says he was hoping the Texans would get him in round 2. I think the whole league was really surprised that Pearsall went that early.
Yeah, the Niners have a history, this bunch, of really not doing well with the first pick.
It's what they do because they reach. And this time they reached for a player who didn't even feel a need. That's what's made it so weird.
What would you have taken in the first round?
I would have taken Cooper DeJean, the cornerback who went to the Eagles, and Vic Fangio. So Fangio liked him. I liked him. Thought he would have been. He can also return punts. He can also play safety. He can play nickel. Any corner at that spot would have been better, or they could have taken a defensive lineman. They could have traded up. Like the Cowboys picked a couple of spots ahead of him and took an offensive tackle who's going to be their starting left tackle this year. The Niners could have traded up a few spots like the Chiefs did if they were convicted about a player. I didn't hear him say that this year, Dad. I think you got to him.
I think, they shouldn't be convicted in the way John Lynch says. They should be convicted for taking that Pearsall in the first round. Iggy, I'm going to say something else. I'm sorry. I know you people are fans and Lowell's a jerk. I thought it was a joke pick. It was a Saturday Night Live pick.
Yeah.
What the hell?
I'm not saying he'll be a bad player. I don't know what he'll be. He might be a fine player down the line, but if you're not going to use him this year, and if they don't win the Super Bowl this year, and they don't play their first round pick either, then that's a missed opportunity. You had an opportunity to go trade up and get. They lost by a few points in overtime. They could be one player away from winning the Super Bowl. You missed an opportunity to get that one player who could help you now.
Yeah. And they're not playing for 2025.
No.
They're not drafting. Their window, which is getting smaller, is now. In 2 years, who the hell knows?
And you know what's funny? This is the same mistake they made with Trey Lance.
Yeah, they did.
Well, we got a first-round pick. This is really important. We got a guy, but he's not for now. Don't worry. We're going to win the Super Bowl, and we're going to develop this guy for the future. Now, I'm not saying Pearsall needs to be developed, but that's what they did. We got a Super Bowl team and this other team that we're building on the side for the future. We're going to be the best team on 2 timelines. No, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Kyle, I got to tell you, I'm sort of laughing. Okay. How else are we going to address this draft?